Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Asian Dating Podcast. Today, I have Amber Lee with us. Amber Lee is the CEO of Select Date Society. She is a luxury matchmaker with over 25 years of celebrated expertise in creating meaningful connections. She has been featured in the Forbes, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, Cosmopolitan, the New York Times, and more. Today's topic, I think what we're going to talk about is what it takes to maintain a long-term relationship and just kind of Amber and my experience dealing with this topic and hopefully just provide some insight. How are you doing, Amber? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, May. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. And I know you've been doing this for a long time, and I've always looked up to you because were a speaker at our recent conference, which I thought the topic you gave was amazing. And it seems like you actually mentor a lot of different matchmakers out there, right? Like you try to teach them different things and try to get publicity or try to help them with this crazy industry we're in. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into this business.
Yes. So, as you mentioned, I spoke at our last Matchmaking Alliance conference in Cancun. And I realized that I am a much better matchmaker and probably mentor as well than I am speaker. Public speaking is not my forte. That was super nerve wracking. But yeah, I've been in the business since 1998. So, for a very long time, I started with a big franchise dating service and then went to some luxury, more boutique matchmaking firms, and really ultimately just realized that there's a better way to do things. I think sometimes these big matchmaking companies kind of lose sight of the clients and of the reason clients pay us the money they pay us to find them the person. And so Sandra Myers and I partnered together. We had been longtime colleagues in the business, and we founded Select Date Society together just to give people a better experience in matchmaking and to have more success. And I can confidently say we've done it. Like we have had more success in the last few years here than I ever experienced in my 20-year career, prior.
That's amazing. That is a really good success record. And what do you think attributes to that? Like, is it because you're setting up clients and you're also helping them move along in their relationship to help them maintain that relationship, or it's just the guidance you give? Like, what are some techniques that you've applied in today's company versus your experience from many, many years ago?
Yeah. So I think in a big franchised organization, it's really just about fulfilling contracts and just throwing people together. Like, okay, these people are in the same age group, in the same area. Let's put them out on a date. We actually do the opposite. Our job is to protect our clients' time and to protect their energy. And we're only going to put them out on a date if it's with somebody who we really feel like has potential to be their partner. So it almost feels like we're working a little bit slowly to people, especially people who are used to swiping and dating a lot on the apps. We do things much more deliberately, but because of that, because of the care and concern we have on the forefront, we're putting people in front of the right people, and they're getting into relationships. And I think that makes all the difference.
I agree. I agree. So, with the clients that you work with, and from everything you've learned the past years, what are some things you think singles out there can do to maintain a long relationship, to maintain a quality, meaningful relationship?
Yeah, I think it all starts with what you're searching for. And so I think so many people get caught up in all the superficial things, right? We all have our dream partner who's 6'2" and has abs of steel and all these things. But really, I always encourage clients to just ditch the checklist. I think you can choose three must haves. Three, you have to have this criteria no matter what. I'm sticking to it, and that's fine. But I will say those must haves, they have to have meaning. They have to be deep and meaningful. And so when I tell clients to look at their must haves, it's things like your core values, how you see the world, your sense of family, your lifestyle. It's not about height or weight or eye color, hair color, anything like that. That stuff's all superficial. Quite frankly, that's all changeable. I think anybody who's been in a 20 plus year relationship will tell you your weight fluctuates, your hair color changes, men lose some hair. Like those things all change over time. So you really have to look at what matters, and that's what's going to hold a relationship together.
So, what are three things that is okay to come to you as the matchmaker and say, hey, Amber, these are my three non negotiables? Like, what are some things that you find that it's okay to search on behalf of the client?
Yeah. So I think things like your faith and spirituality, that's probably a big, if that's important to you, that's probably a profound area of your life that you spend a lot of time on, whether it's in prayer or meditation or going to services. So if you have a criteria around that, that's great. We're happy to accommodate that. I think your overall kind of worldview per se. So for some people, that means, volunteering and treating others with kindness. For some people, that means holding on to really traditional conservative values around family and that type of thing. So those kind of like your core values, how you see the world, that's important. And then I think overall lifestyle, especially since the pandemic, we've seen the world open up in this amazing way where so many people can work remotely, and now they're traveling and they're bi-coastal, and they see themselves living in different areas, whereas some people are still very rooted in the area they're in. Lifestyle things also, like I always tell people, don't get caught up in the superficial things. Like instead of saying I'm looking for a woman who is 120 pounds, that may not be the important thing, but the important thing to you may be that you run marathons and you want somebody you could train with and somebody who's fit and healthy and maintains a healthy lifestyle. That we can do.
But what if your client comes to you and they're like, well, I'm just not attracted to somebody that doesn't weigh 120 pounds? Or what if, do you know
yes,
what I mean? Like,
yes.
Do you just not listen to what they have to say as far as that goes then? Or you're like, okay, that's
yeah, no, I'm not saying that. We definitely listen to what they have to say. And I think attraction is important, right? Like you have to be drawn to each other. And so in general, people tell us the type of people they're attracted to. We even have clients who send us photos of their type so that we have an idea as matchmakers. But what I'm saying is, when it comes down to it, like that's not what's going to keep your relationship together. Yeah, we can find you somebody who's slender and fit, but let's think beyond just the fact that she's a size 2. What is it about her being slender and fit that you're really attracted to? And it's probably more about her lifestyle, right? And so those are the criteria we're matching people on.
So once you find somebody who has those criteria, how do you suggest people maintain a strong, thriving relationship? What are some things that they should do to make sure they get to the 1 year mark, or to a proposal, or to marriage and kids?
Yeah, I think sense of humor is huge. The ability to laugh easily together can truly be the bond that keeps your relationship together. And so sometimes people will get caught up in just taking themselves too seriously, or even taking the process of finding long-lasting love too seriously. So if, for example, if a woman has a timeline to get married by age 30 and have her first child by age 32 and her second by age 34, those are things that we would encourage people. Yes, that may be important to you, and you may have kind of this timeline in mind. But realistically, if you're approaching dating as like a chore, or, as a goal you're going to accomplish, you're not going to be successful. You have to take more of a lighthearted approach.
So how would you suggest a person who's pretty type A, who has her checklist, to chill out a little bit?
Yeah, so part of it is our job as matchmakers, finding the right person who is going to bring her into her feminine energy and her playful side. And so what happens a lot of times, boss women who are type A, who are used to getting things done, they want a man who's also like super accomplished and super type A. And so part of it is putting her in front of a guy that she probably wouldn't normally choose on paper, to see that that's actually what she needs. Because really, there can only be one cook in the kitchen, so to speak, in a relationship. In my marriage, I'm the boss. I just know that. My husband knows that. He's okay with it. There can only be one kind of person that kind of takes the lead and is the boss in the relationship. And it can be the man or the woman. Either one can have the energy to kind of drive things forward, but it has to be one. You can't have two people, they're going to butt heads.
So what do you tell a woman that is a CEO or president or vice president of a company and she's like, I want a guy who's the same way. So you just say, okay, I appreciate you wanting that, but you're coming to me for a reason. You've been dating 20, 30 years on your own. You just need to trust me. And then you just put the guy in front of her that you think she should be with and then see how that goes.
It's not as much about having the conversation, telling the client to trust us, because that will never work. You can't say to somebody, "Oh, just trust me." They're going to be like, "Yeah, right, whatever. I'm not listening to you." You have to show them, and so it really is about, as matchmakers are, May, from experience. You have your experience and your intuition, and you know what makes a good match. So it's, first of all, our responsibility to find that guy who's going to be a really good match. And then, instead of talking about like subjective, like, what if we found this kind of guy, we actually have him. And we say to her, you know what, Bob could be your guy. And here's why. Here's why we see this working. And we tell her, we present the match in a way that paints the picture where she could see herself in a relationship with this man. We have them meet in person. We have a date concierge who sets up the date. So they're not going to mess it up before it happens. They're not going to get into texting back and forth and finding reasons to say no to the date. We make the reservation. We set everything up for them. They go ahead and meet. And then afterwards, I won't have to tell her to trust me, because she will trust me. She'll know that we put that match together for a reason. Even if he's not her guy, she's going to be more open the next time around when we say, this is a great match for you and here's why.
That's great. That's great. So you've been married and you were probably dating a lot before you got married. What are some things that you've seen that what you were doing in your single life that you're like, oh my gosh, looking back, I would never have done that, knowing what I know. Like, what are some things that you just want other people to learn from your mistakes?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, my single life, I was in my 20s. So choosing the wrong partner when you're in your 20s, you're just not. Most people are not well equipped to make good relationship decisions. I will say one mistake I see a lot of people make, and I made myself when I was younger, is just rushing into things. And so, May, I remember when we spoke at dinner one night, you shared with me that you and your husband dated for like a decade, right? Before
Oh,
you
yeah.
got married?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We
Yeah.
were together 10 years before we got married, and we've been married for 5 years now. So, yeah.
Yeah. So Mike and I, my husband and I, dated for 12 years before we got married. And marriage isn't for everybody, right? Like, some people don't want to ever get married. I didn't think it was really that important to me at one time either. But my point is that rushing into a relationship is a huge mistake. If you want to make a relationship work, you have to experience life together. You have to see how you react to each other, how you support each other, how you overcome adversity together. You've got to go through some stuff to make sure that you have what it takes before making that lifetime commitment. I'll tell you, I think you saw I posted on social media last weekend. We had a Select Date Society couple who recently got married, and they shared their story with the New York Times. And they have this beautiful love story where they were dating for a year. They were set to get married. I think they were supposed to get married in 2021. They had to postpone their wedding because he was in a motorcycle accident that almost took his life. He had to be in a wheelchair for like 5 months, had to totally recover. It was a big ordeal that they went through, and they came out stronger than ever and more certain than ever that they were meant to be together. They just got married recently, and we're so happy for them. But that's the stuff that, like, I have no doubt that their marriage is going to last forever because they've already overcome things together. They've already built that bond. And I think sometimes young people, like, when you're in love and the dopamine's hitting and you're just like, oh, just overwhelmed with, like, wanting to spend your life with this person, sometimes you overlook things and you rush into things. And that's a huge mistake. You've got to take your time with it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my husband and I were together 10 years and we moved to Colorado with no ring, no promise of a ring, but I always knew we would be together anyway. But a lot of people thought I was crazy to move from California to Colorado without a commitment. But I was like, in my mind, we're already committed for 10 years, So I see people that were dating for like 4 months, 5 months, they get engaged at 6 months and then they get married at a year. And I was like, wow, that's kudos to them. But what's the rush? I mean, maybe if you want
Yeah.
kids, that might be a rush. But anyway.
Yeah, I think postponing having children for a year or two and knowing that you're going to give those children a two-parent household
Yeah.
is way more valuable than just rushing just to have a baby. That's for
Right.
sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the divorce rate is still what, over 50%, right? So it's not
Yeah.
like it's gotten better over the years that people have been around. It's like it's kind of the same. So it's like, what's your rush? I don't know. What do you think about people who get married in their 20s? Like 21, 22, 23? Like, do you think that's so young? Or do
I
you think it's
do.
just different parts of the country that people do that?
Yeah, I do think it's young. I have a 14-year-old daughter. She's going to be 15 in a couple of weeks. And we have very firmly told her, don't get married until you're 30. Because I feel like when you're in your 20s, you don't know enough. You don't have enough life experience. I will say it's cultural for some people. There are certain cultures where you get married younger. There are certain parts of the country. I grew up in the Midwest where, you marry your high school sweetheart or your college sweetheart. You get married at a young age. Although those things have changed a lot in some areas, it's very much the expectation. I think, like with anything in life, like the successful people in business kind of pave their own way. They don't, they're not followers, they're leaders. They do what they know is right versus just kind of following everybody else. It's the same in relationships. I feel like you have to trust your instinct. You have to do what's right for you and don't give in to pressure, whether it's from family or society or, the small town you grew up in or anything else. Like you need to do what's right for you. And maybe it is getting married at 22. For some people, that might be right. I just finished Kelly Ripa's book, the talk show host, and she got married to her husband like really young, and they had 3 kids, and they seem to have a really thriving, healthy marriage. So I think for some people, it's right. I wouldn't advise it for most people, though.
Yeah, I listen to her stories and what she talks about with her husband and her 3 beautiful, attractive kids. And you're like,
Yeah.
wow, what a great love story, right? Like,
Yeah.
did she meet her husband on the soap opera that they were both?
Yes, on the set of a soap opera. And they actually rushed into it. They went and eloped without even telling anyone. So sometimes you do know. I will say that, like, when you know, you know. I feel like when you meet your partner, there's just like this unspoken connection, and you just know this is your person.
Right. I mean, you can't go wrong with someone that looks like Mark,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Like,
of course. Yeah. I don't blame her.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, they seem like a really great couple, and I do enjoy watching her on the daytime show, and she's funny. And yeah, getting back to that sense of humor part, it's like I feel like if you have sense of humor and you both are clicking with that type of humor, you can just conquer the world together and not have things be so serious. But
Yes.
how did you find your sense of humor? Like, because I know I was not funny in high school. I was really serious and shy. I didn't develop my sense of humor until I guess, gained confidence in the work world. And, then you could be witty and stuff like that. But what about if someone doesn't have a sense of humor? What if they are too serious? Like, how do you suggest they get over that?
Yeah. So I'm curious, and I don't know because I don't know your husband, but I've seen plenty of pictures of him, and I'm guessing that he's a funny guy. So let me ask you, do you feel like he brings out your playful, fun side? Like, does he make you laugh and like you feel like you're funny around him?
Yeah, I guess. I think my sense of humor and our personalities developed later. I feel like I could
Mhm.
totally be myself around him now, the good and bad and the ugly. But yeah, I guess I don't know actually. I don't know the answer to that. I'll ask him
So,
after this podcast. Yeah.
yeah, so I don't think you have to be funny to have a good sense of humor. I'm not funny at all. My husband is hilarious. He is much more playful and lighthearted than I am. I'm much more serious, much more focused and goal oriented. So he brings out that side of me. He makes me laugh. And I think that's important. And just in general, not even sense of humor, but there's something about balance in a relationship. Like my husband is also an extrovert. He can talk to anyone, anywhere. I'm an introvert naturally. It takes a lot of energy for me to be out and be social. And so we balance each other out in that way. And I think we've learned so much from each other and we bring out different sides in each other. And I think that most long-term relationships have that kind of balancing act where one partner's one way, the other's another way, but together they're even better.
So what other advice can you give people out there who actually don't want to hire a matchmaker or can't afford to pay for a matchmaker? They don't have thousands of dollars to invest. How would you suggest they meet people?
I think number one, you can't be quiet about it. If you are on your search to find your person, it's not something you want to keep to yourself. You want to tell everybody around you. Part of the reason that matchmakers are so good at what we do is we spend a lot of time networking. We spend a lot of time recruiting great matches for our clients. So if you're single, employ the people around you to network for you. Let every colleague and friend and family member know that you're single and looking. Ask who they know. They probably know somebody and have never mentioned it to you because they didn't know if you're open to it. They didn't know if they're crossing a line. They didn't know if you would be okay with it. So just let everybody know that you're single and looking. And then also, like, it's the little things like smiling at strangers, not being creepy about it, but striking up conversation with people, putting your phone away and actually paying attention to the world around you. I think if you really get present in the moment and you listen to your instincts, there are opportunities around you all the time that you're probably missing out on because you're tied to your phone and you're really not aware of like what's going on around you.
I agree 100% with the two advice you just gave. And I like that, like telling everybody around you that you're looking and that you're open if they have somebody that they would suggest for you to meet. Because you're right, a lot of times before being a matchmaker, I don't think I would be so bold as to try to match someone. Like you don't want to offend them, but if they ask, of course you would try to help them, right? And especially if you know single women or if you know women out there, women just want to help people all the time.
Yes.
I feel like. So if you know any married women that have single friends, I would totally hit them up and keep in touch with them. Yeah, it's good advice for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure, May, you've experienced it where you find a woman, the love of her life, and all of a sudden she sends you 20 of her single girlfriends because they just want to help everyone. They are in a good relationship. They want everyone else to experience it as well.
Right. I agree. And your other advice is put your friggin' phone down and just pay attention to the world around you. I mean, you're right. You can meet people anywhere. I remember my girlfriends and I just went out to dinner in LA and then like the server was totally handsome, totally cute. It's like, you just never know who you'll meet out there. And just to be a little flirtatious or friendly.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes people are like, well, I don't know how to flirt. Well, the whole point of flirting is just talking, right? I mean, it's just smiling. You don't have to come up with anything fancy or anything super, super witty, but just be nice. That's could be your way of flirting with somebody. So
yeah, and be authentic. Like if you're feeling nervous, say like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, or oh my gosh, I normally would never do something like this. I don't know what's gotten into me. Like it's okay to be honest about how you're feeling.
Right. So what other tips can you give the single people out there based on your years of experience? Like anything unique or out of the box, out of the ordinary that you can think of that might have helped your clients along the way?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something that I got a lot of flack for when I posted from other matchmakers, a lot of pushback. But I said a while ago, I think on TikTok or Instagram, I said, if you're going to hire a matchmaker, you better make sure that matchmaker knows how to maintain a long lasting relationship herself or himself. And I think it's true. I think that anybody who says they're a matchmaker who has never had a relationship that's lasted more than a few years probably is not the best person to get you into a long lasting relationship. I'm not saying you have to be married to be a great matchmaker. I think you can be single and be a great matchmaker. You don't even have to currently be in a relationship. But in the past, I feel like good matchmakers have had a long lasting relationship. They know what it takes to get people there because that's how we coach our clients and looking past the superficial stuff and all the fluff and the stuff that really doesn't matter. Like you and I know that, relationships are hard work, but we also know what it takes, like what people should be looking for to find the kind of love that we have. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think if you've been in a long-term relationship or you're married now or you're in a long relationship now, that you're more forgiving of the little things that don't really matter. Like, as you're
Yes.
coaching and I'm coaching my clients, sometimes the guy on a first date or second date would be so upset that the woman was 5 minutes late. I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, 5 minutes doesn't matter. But what matters is how she apologized and how she acknowledged it and what her reason was. But just be a little bit more forgiving with little stuff like that. Like, if she's dishonest with you, then that's a different story. But if she
Right.
was late and that was a good excuse, then no big deal. But of course, I tell all the dates that they should be on time, if not early, right? Otherwise, because
Right.
traffic everywhere, sucks. But I feel that way too. I feel like I'm a better matchmaker because I'm in, a marriage and I'm in a happy relationship and I know what it takes to get there compared to the dates and dating that I've done before. Like, you're right. A lot of the stuff didn't
Yeah.
matter before in my 20s. I'm like, man, I was so shallow and such a bad
Yeah.
dater.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's something about like when you're in a good, happy, healthy relationship, like the energy you put out into the world, I truly feel like I have like this magical energy where it's almost like everything I touch turns to gold. But it's true because Mike has made me a better person and he's made me a better matchmaker. Like I have so much love in my life and I want that for all of my clients. And I think that it really does translate. And this really, it is kind of woo woo and energetic, but there is like this transfer of energy as matchmakers. When we're good, we can make sure our clients are good.
I agree. I agree. So, what else do you want to add before we say bye? Anything else that you want to let the audience and listeners know about your work? How can they get in touch with you and what's your specialty?
Yeah, so we're a luxury matchmaking firm, like you mentioned. Our prices start at 35,000, so we're expensive. We're not for everyone. We're working with individuals who are entrepreneurs and CEOs, and highly successful individuals who are just missing that one piece of the puzzle. We work with clients throughout the country, some in Canada and Europe as well, but major metro areas mostly throughout the United States. We're at selectdatesociety.com and we're on all the socials at Select Date Society, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can find us there.
Okay. And I, of course, will put all your information in the show notes. And one last question. We never talked about this. I just want to put you on the spot, Amber, because you know a lot of information. If someone's been dating somebody for, let's say, up to 3 months, and their birthday's coming up, or Christmas is coming up, or Valentine's is coming up, what's an acceptable gift to get somebody if they're new in the relationship? They are exclusive or non-exclusive, but they've been together and dating for 3 months.
That is a great question and a very timely one because we're recording this the end of January. Valentine's Day is coming up. So this is the key to dating and relationships. I feel like you have to be authentic. You have to be yourself. There's no script. There's no right or wrong. You have to do what feels right for you. Now, I will make it clear, men sometimes can be a little bit in the dark about what's appropriate or even if they should do anything at all. So if you're a man, you might want to ask your sister or your mother or girlfriend for advice and take their advice, but do it in a way that feels natural for you. So if you feel like flowers are appropriate or chocolates are appropriate or a nice handwritten card or a handmade gift, that's fine. I would say definitely under $100. You don't have to, do something super luxurious. Although if you're at a point in your relationship where you're open to traveling together and you want to do a weekend getaway, if that feels right for you and where you're at with that person, that's fine too. But I think it has to be genuine. It has to come from your heart and it has to feel right for the stage in the relationship you're at, not necessarily the time. So some relationships 3 months in could feel like you barely know each other. Some people 3 months in could feel like, oh my gosh, this is my person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. So you have to do what's appropriate.
So should a woman get a guy anything for Valentine's Day or not really?
If it feels right to you, you should do it. I think, again, it's all about what feels right to you and what feels natural to you. I think that men are looking for women who are warm and kind and caring. And that also translates to being a generous person. It doesn't have to be an expensive gift, but I think being thoughtful, whether you're a man or a woman, is always welcome. And I think it's always appreciated.
I love that. Well, thank you, Amber, so much.
Yeah, thank you, May. And I just want to say, May, you have brought such a wonderful activity into my marriage. In Mexico, you taught my husband how to play poker. He's taught me. I joined a ladies' poker night, and we sit on our patio and just play one-on-one Texas Hold'em together. At the end of the day, quite often. So I thank you for that. It's been a huge, huge fun part of our marriage.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. So, well, thank you everybody for listening. And if you want to be part of my database, please go to twoasianmatchmakers.com, and ladies, please apply. And men, if you're looking to hire a matchmaker, give me a call or give Amber a call, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.